afternoon, everyone. A big welcome to all from Breakthrough. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, Rohini, you're clear.
So धन्यवाद सबको यहाँ आने के लिए. Before we begin, I will just take 1 minute to just acknowledge the kind of help we have got over the last few weeks from our sister organizations, women's rights organizations across the country. We've reached out to many to organize this, and even before that, we have reached out to many to just talk about what's happening on domestic violence. And we are very happy to see everybody today here, and we are really grateful also to all the service delivery organizations who are working out there providing services on domestic violence. A big thank you to all of you. We are happy to welcome Srimati Rekha ji, Rekha Sharma from NCW. Thank you very much for coming, Rekha ji, today. She doesn't have a lot of time today, so I would really like her to say a few words before we, start the proceedings. And before that, I'll just like to acknowledge people who will be organizations who will be speaking here today. There's Swayam from Calcutta, there's Jagori from Delhi, there's Anurita from Northeast Network, and hi. And there is Devjani, who's as a legal expert would weigh in with all the things that is going to happen today. And there is also, am I forgetting somebody? There's Breakthrough, of course, here, and there is also somebody else, which I'm probably just not seeing here. My Futures Foundation. Thank you everybody for being here. I'd like to ask Rekha ji to say, what is she thinking? What is NCW thinking about this? And what are we putting together to actually deal with this crazy situation? Rekha ji, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for including me in this. This is a very good initiative you have taken. And I must say that this is very tough time for all of us. And contribution from all of you is much needed these days, because as many women are not being able to reach out to police and other organizations, we need to reach to them. So this is a time where we have to work, I think, double than what we used to work in normal circumstances. NCW has raised this point because when I started seeing these domestic violence complaints in first week after the lockdown, and I just saw that they are like more than double in number. And that is the time I raised this problem all over on Twitter, on social media, talking to the media. Everywhere we started talking about it. So we have taken it in a big way. We started reaching to the women. Earlier, we used to, work on files, and we used to write to the police and give them 7 days, and they used to write us back. So we just stopped doing all that and picked up the phone. My junior technical officers, we made a group of these officers, and they started calling up women. They started calling up police people. They started counseling them wherever we could reach women on phone, because most of the women didn't want to talk. They would rather email us, and that is why these complaints are only on online. Earlier, we used to receive online, plus people used to walk in, plus postal complaints used to come. So these are the complaints only where women could reach us online, because the office is closed, and we are not working on the postal complaints. Slowly we have started talking to NGOs also. Then today only we have launched WhatsApp number also. So we thought that most women can't access internet, can't access email. They don't know how to make their email IDs and reach us. But most of the Indian women these days are on WhatsApp and they are sharing things on WhatsApp. So we have launched WhatsApp number. I would also like to share in this portal because you can also spread this WhatsApp number. This is 721 7735 372. So again, 721 7735 372. This is going to be our WhatsApp number till the lockdown period and till normal functions resume. We'll be taking up all the complaints on this, register them, or before registering also we'll be going and helping women. Today I also had a meeting with the state chairpersons all over India, and we wanted to interlink our complaints which are we are receiving, because they are the persons who are sitting on the ground. They can reach to the women on district level also. So we will be sharing our complaints wherever we can't reach ourselves. We will be sending these complaints to state commissions. We are also linking to one-stop centers, because one-stop centers in many states are working. I must say that today I got to know in many states they are not functional, but in many states these chairpersons told me that yes, they are properly functioning, and wherever they are functioning we'll be taking their help also with the call 181 number and one stop Sakhi one stop center. Many places we can reach, and I will take up the matter with WCD. Wherever these one stop centers are not working, we will make them function in a very short time, because they will be very helpful, where they can reach out to the women, they can give the counseling. It is in every district, supposed to be in every district. So let us see how we can take their help also. I would also like to request you all that if any NGO, especially you people are working on the ground and you have that जिसको हिंदी में बोलते हैं पकड़ है ग्राउंड जमीन की, you can also suggest us the ways where we can reach women, or you can email me with all the suggestions. Wherever we need your help, I would like you to share your email IDs with us. We would like to ask for your help also wherever we need your help. So this is my short address. Whatever you need to ask, I'm here for another 5 minutes. You can ask me. Thank you.
Okay. Ma'am, what we will do is, which will be, because there are now 224 participants on this list, we will compile the questions that everybody will have, and whatever applies to NCW, we will put them together and send them to you on the email ID, and then you can respond to us, and you can share that with everybody. Along with the recording of this, we will send it to you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming today. So I'm going to hand this over to my colleague Barsha to lead the rest of the session, and I'm going to unmute and make myself invisible. Thank you, Barsha. Take it away.
Thank you, everybody, for joining this webinar. I would first like to really thank all the organization and Devyani who agreed to be part of it and share their experience, how they're facing and how they're dealing the entire situation. So I will first request all the panelists. I'll just, it'll be actually easier because there are so many people, and if you can raise your hand. So if people from Coro, if you can introduce yourself, if you can raise your hand and then we can unmute. I can see Paro, Supriya. I have unmuted Paro. I'm looking for Supriya. Can you please raise your hand, Supriya? It's easier to find that way. Okay, Anurita, if you can introduce yourself and the organization you're coming from and what kind of work you do, and then meanwhile we can find the rest and start working.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anurita, and I work in the Northeast Network. I am based in Assam. We also work in Nagaland and Meghalaya, and we work on various women's issues, including violence against women, and domestic violence has been our work for a long time now.
Thank you, Anurita. I see Richa Rastogi. If you can introduce the organization and
हेलो
Richa. Yeah, hi Richa.
या हाय आई एम रिचा मैं लखनऊ से हूँ हमसफर से
Okay, thank you, Richa. Am I audible? Like I am requesting people from Koro, Elka, like the panelists we were in touch with, if you can please introduce yourself.
Is it possible that we can introduce My Choices Foundation?
Yes, please, Elka.
Thank you very much. So we actually have, I'm Elka and I'm the founder of My Choices Foundation. And on the line, we also have Archie Brian, who heads up Operation Peacemaker, Paul, who looks after all our counselors, and Dr. Farhana, who looks after our prevention programs. We are based in Hyderabad, and we focus predominantly on domestic violence. We have 5 counseling centers that provides all the services to the women and their families in terms of counseling, legal services. We also have a safe home, and we train women in the local communities to become our peacemakers. So they are change agents that bring the cases to our centers. We currently have more than 8,000 cases on our book. We also work very closely with the police. The police in Hyderabad send most of their domestic violence cases to our centers. We also have online or a help number that when we do our college programs or our school programs, that after the program, the college girls and the school girls can reach out to us. We also had a partnership, or still have a partnership, as you guys know, with Breakthrough, and we've reopened those conversations to see if we can air the Balpajao ads again to reach the women in their homes and have a helpline option at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elka. Jayashree, if you can introduce yourself and the organization.
Oh, sure.
You are unmuted.
Yeah. My name is Jayashree Velankar, and I represent Jagori here. Jagori is one of the oldest feminist organizations in India. It was established in 1984. And from day one, ending violence against women and girls has been one of our core activities. We provide counseling services. We have walk-in center, and we also run helplines, which we have kept running throughout this lockdown period.
Thank you so much, Jayashree. Devyani, if you can please introduce.
Thank you so much. This is really fantastic to see so many people who have, I'll also put my video on so that you can, now that I have, no, I cannot put it on. You will have to put it on. Right. So I'm a lawyer by practice and by training, and I have practiced in various courts in Delhi. At the moment, I am working with the Azim Premji Philanthropic Initiatives, looking after access to justice. I'd also like to welcome my colleague Sonia, who's on this call. She looks after gender in the philanthropy. Both of us are very keen to hear from all of you as to how we can support you better. In terms of the legal side of things, I can give my inputs later, but I think almost all of you probably know all of this much better than I do. So I think the learning is going to really be for me more than anybody else. So thanks again for having me here.
Thank you so much. Amrita from Swayam, can you please raise your hand?
So hi, this is Amrita. My colleague Gargi is also on the line, so we need to unmute her as well.
Yes.
Gargi needs to be found and unmuted.
Yes.
So both of us are representing SWAYAM. SWAYAM is a feminist women's rights organization based in Kolkata. And we've been working around ending violence against women and addressing gender inequality for the last 25 years. And our work has been both direct support to survivors of violence, as well as prevention work, which is intertwined. So looking at campaign advocacy, research, training, capacity building. And we also work in two communities. One of it is our urban community, which is Metiaburuj, Khidirpur and Moheshtola. And one of it is our rural community, which is in Diamond Harbour, where we run groups. We work with men and boys for the last 5 years as well. And yes, as Jagori also mentioned, we've been keeping our helplines open since the lockdown started. And I think we can talk about that more in details once we start the dialogue.
Thank you so much. Gargi is unmuted, so we are keeping all the speakers unmuted for this discussion. We have unmuted Mumtaz. Mumtaz, if you can introduce. Yes.
हेलो, मेरा नाम मुमताज है और मैं कोरो से जुड़ी हुई हूँ। सुजाता और सुप्रिया भी ट्राई कर रहे हैं, लेकिन पता नहीं दिक्कत क्या हो रही है। तो कोरो की ओर से हम डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस को लेके काम करते हैं और सुजाता जैसे ही ऐड हो जाएगी तो वो भी बोलेगी, अगर नहीं बोल पाती है तो फिर मैं आगे ये करती हूँ। थैंक्स।
थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी, थैंक यू फॉर योर इंट्रोडक्शन। मैं वर्षा हूँ और मैं ब्रेक थ्रू के मीडिया टीम के साथ काम करती हूँ। मैं डिजिटल एंगेजमेंट और डिजिटल मीडिया लेके जो एडवोकेसी होता है उसी पे ज़्यादातर काम करती हूँ। तो आज वी विल ट्राई टू कीप दिस होल डिस्कशन हिंदी इंग्लिश मिक्स, क्योंकि हमारे साथ बहुत लोग जुड़े हुए हैं और सभी बहुत कंफर्टेबल नहीं है इंग्लिश में या सिर्फ हिंदी में या सिर्फ इंग्लिश में बात करने के लिए। तो हम थोड़ा सा मिला के बात करेंगे। अभी हमारे साथ रेखा शर्मा जी थे और उन्होंने बताया कि कैसे एनसीडब्ल्यू ये पूरा मुद्दे को देख रहे हैं लॉकडाउन के ड्यूरिंग द लॉकडाउन, जैसे डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस बढ़ रहे हैं एंड अलार्मिंग रेट पे बढ़ रहे हैं। जो उनको जनवरी फरवरी में जितना पूरे महीने में उनको कॉल मिले थे, उनको 8 दिन में उनसे ज्यादा कॉल मिले हैं। तो ये जो डेटा है, अभी तक हमारा जो डेटा हमें मिला है वो हमें सरकार से, जो एनसीडब्ल्यू से मिला है। आप लोग जो ग्राउंड में काम कर रहे हैं, भारत के डिफरेंट एरियाज में काम कर रहे हैं, आपका एक्सपीरियंस कैसा है? अगर आप इफ यू कैन स्पीक अबाउट योर ओन एक्सपीरियंस while working in the ground, what do you think that how this lockdown made it a difference in the number of cases reported, or is it like more cases coming up? What is your experience, if you can share? Anurita, I'll start with Anurita.
Thank you, and good afternoon once again to everyone. I am Anurita and I represent Northeast Network. I've already said we work in Meghalaya, Nagaland and Assam. In Assam, we have what is called Gramin Mahila Kendras, which are located in villages. And these Gramin Mahila Kendras are women's centers which offer psychosocial care and support to women who are in abusive relationship. And these are also recognized as service providers by the Social Welfare Department according to the Domestic Violence Act. We have been working on issues of domestic violence and more especially on on different issues of violence against women and more especially on domestic violence in the past 25 years. Now, what has happened, we have been recording cases. At the moment, we are handling in Assam 5 cases. And I can for sure say they are all related to lockdown. Some of these cases are ongoing abuse. So in one of the instances, the woman actually, the violence escalated because of the lockdown, and there was immense abuse which was going on her, which was verbal as well as physical. And because of the lockdown, she waited for night to escape from the house. She crossed 2 paddy fields and reached her mother's house. So what had happened on the 3rd day, she actually, the husband arrived at the mother's house, and at the heat of the moment, there was a huge argument going on. He just snatched the 5-month-old baby and ran away. This woman was so petrified, she couldn't do anything. She immediately called us because at our Gramin Mahila Kendras, we are keeping our helplines open for women. What we are doing is reaching out to them. Our community workers are also maintaining physical distance, and they cannot also violate the state orders. So what we did, we mobilized the village defense parties. In Assam, the Assam police has what is called village defense parties, and these are mostly from people from the community. We informed them. We also informed the village headmen, the one from the government, and then we informed the frontline COVID workers, the ANM, the ASHA. Finally, it took us 3 days to restore the baby to the mother. So what is happening is we are service providers or we are women's organizations. At the moment, we are reaching out to women over phone because we are looking at a register, and these women are talking wherever possible, talking to a lot of women and who had approached us in the 6 months. This is one strategy that we have adopted, not that everybody is reachable over phone. This is one. And secondly, we are every day talking to these women who are coming to us, especially these 5 women. In another case, because of the excessive physical assault, this woman defied the lockdown. She walked to the Thana. We also violated the state order and we also reached the Thana. Now, what is happening is the women are compromising because they have to return to their homes. And returning to their homes means they're also very scared, they're anxious, and there is fear of repercussion. They fear that basic minimum, that is shelter and food, will be denied to them. So they're compromising on their safety, security, and going back to their homes. And in another instance, we have seen that the frustration was so huge on the men, there was no income. Food was dwindling, food was getting shorter. So he had asked this woman to go to collect some firewood from the forest. And because she did not manage to, right now we are handling this case. She's run away and staying in a neighbor's house. Now the one stop, how much time do I have?
You can, I mean, we'll have all of us and then, but be like little specific, and if you can have like the concrete challenges you're facing, especially during lockdown to deal.
This is one challenge is because this, thank you. And the challenge lies in recognize the service providers, but this particular service is not being recognized as an essential service. As a result of which, because the community workers, the counselors are also maintaining social distance, we're not able to reach out to the women. It's over phone that we are doing, and we are also mobilizing the frontline workers, one. And in the case of shelters, what I would say that this woman who's taking shelter in this particular neighbor's house, she doesn't want to return to her house because of the violence, but she has no other choice. So I had approached one Swadhargre. The person in the Swadhargre, they are fine, but they also have a question to me. And this is also something that I've also found out in a shelter home in Dimapur, where they are saying that we will take in the person, but ensure us that the person is free from the virus. They want us first to take the woman to some healthcare provider, then to the place. And they also think there are no protocols or guidelines on how to take in women at this hour. So this is another challenge. A lot of rights are getting compromised because women are saying, chalo, we will get back to our homes. And also the government of Assam has opened up a lot of psychosocial care and counseling for general emotional and mental well-being of persons. And I think these also need to be very inclusive of the situation which women are facing. And I would also say that in the Northeast, because is Madam Rekha around from the NCW? I think she's left, right?
She has left. She has, yeah.
I had a question for her because I had called up the chairperson of the Assam State Commission for Women, and she said that her term is over. So that needs to be looked after or taken into account. Her term is over, so they are not able to function very well. And I would also talk about the detention camps in Assam. We haven't done much work on the detention camps, but the reports which are pouring in now are talking also of the situation of residents in these camps, and also the immense anxiety the families are facing, because there are also women in these camps. So this is one, and I would say that it's a complex situation, we understand. The state is committed to protecting lives, but the state must commit to actually to ensure that women's safety, women are safe, their safety becomes a priority. And we have been saying in all the COVID measures and announcements, the advisory must be gender responsive and must talk about women's safety issues. And for this, they must include the grassroots governance peoples, like in Assam, we have VCDCs, Village Council Development Councils in the autonomous districts. We have the panchayats, we have the ANMs, Anganwadi workers. They must be all very sensitized, because when we were handling the first case where the baby was snatched away, the ANM immediately swung into action and said that, you know, they are going only by protocols which have to do with health. However, she did help us with the case. So this is something that I want to say. And also we must recognize that women wear multiple hats, multiple identities. So it becomes very important. It's not just between the man and the woman in the household, but there are so many other categories of women who are in the household. So these must be taken into account. Even in Meghalaya, we have community workers, and we are reaching out to them and reaching out to the women and making sure and telling them, reassuring them that our helplines are open. But this is not enough. We are not mobile. We are not able to move out. We are defying lockdowns. In one case, we defied the lockdown and we went ahead. However, there's more which the state needs to do, because all COVID measures will remain defeated until and unless this particular issue is addressed. And from then, we also spoke to the district legal services. The district legal services is not doing anything at the moment. And we are also, for shelter homes like Ujwala, they also feel that, you know, because they're so limited in the protocols, they're not able to accept all kinds of women who would approach them. So, and when you speak to the protection officers, they're saying that, you know, all the cases are now being linked up to 181. This is all that I have to say. I'm open for further queries, and I strongly feel that all COVID advisories must include women's safety in these cases.
Thank you so much, Anushka. Thank you so much. बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट मुद्दा उठाया है. अब मैं मुमताज से थोड़ा पूछना चाहूंगी कि वो केसेस देख रहे हैं महाराष्ट्र में जहाँ खोरो काम करते हैं, तो उनका क्या तजुर्बा है ये पूरे सीन को लेके, और अगर थोड़ा संक्षेप में बोले जो आपको चैलेंजेस आ रहा है और कितना कॉल्स आ रहे हैं, कितना इश्यूज आ रहे हैं, कैसे आ रहे हैं वो कॉल्स, थोड़ा सा अगर आप बोले.
जी जी शुक्रिया मुझे बोलने का मौका देने के लिए. एक तो ये है कि हम फिलहाल अभी सभी लोग बड़े पैमाने पे रिलीफ के कामों में लगे हुए हैं, और उसी बीच में कहीं ना कहीं डीवी का मुद्दा साइड में रह गया है सिस्टम की ओर से. तो हमने हमारे ओर से जिन एरिया में हम रिलीफ का काम कर रहे हैं उसी में ही हमने काउंसलर्स के नंबर दे दिए थे, घर घर में पहुंचा दिए थे कि अगर कोई भी दिक्कत आती है तो वो उसमें हमसे बात कर सकते हैं. और अभी का अगर हम देखें तो दिन में कम से कम 5 से 7 कॉल हमें आते हैं, जिसमें महिलाएं अपने साथ होने वाले डीवी को लेकर बात कर रही है कि घर में चिड़चिड़ापन हुआ है, बहुत ताने कसे जाते हैं, फिजिकल रिलेशन के लिए महिलाएं अगर तैयार नहीं होती है तो चुटिया काटी जाती है. तो इस तरीके के केसेस बाहर आ रही है. और अगर कोई महिलाएं पुलिस स्टेशन में भी गई है तो वहां पे पुलिस ने उनका सुनकर नहीं लिया है, क्योंकि सबका मतलब जो उन्होंने जवाब देना शुरू किया है कि लोग महामारी से मर रहे हैं और आप लोगों को झगड़े करने की सोच रही है, तो अभी तो कुछ होगा नहीं. इस तरीके से लोगों के साथ सिस्टम काम कर रही है, बात कर रही है. तो अभी हम ये कर रहे हैं कि जितना हो सके उतना फोन पे हम काउंसलिंग की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, काउंसलिंग कर रहे हैं, और साथ ही में हम उन बंदों से भी बात कर रहे हैं जिनके फैमिली में झगड़े हो रहे, ना कि कोई केस आई है इसको लेकर. तो अभी 2-3 तरीके से काम कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि जो हमारा कम्युनिटी में स्ट्रक्चर है जहाँ पे कम्युनिटी केस रजिस्ट्रेशन सेंटर्स हमारे चलते हैं, तो वहाँ पे इमिडिएटली महिलाओं के साथ बात हो रही है, उनको हेल्प मिल रही है। लेकिन इस तरीके के सपोर्ट सिस्टम कम्युनिटीज नहीं है, तो वहाँ पे दिक्कतें आ रही है। लेकिन हमारा जो अनुभव रहा है कि क्योंकि सारे हम बस्ती से ही है, तो हमारे पास अगर केस आती है या हमें बाजू में पता चलता है कि कुछ हो रहा है, तो वो 350 घरों के यूनिट में हमारे लोग जाकर बात कर रहे हैं। लेकिन सिस्टम बिल्कुल काम नहीं कर रहा है, तो हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि सिस्टम के साथ बात करें, खास तौर पे पुलिस के साथ, ताकि वो लॉकडाउन में बाकी की चीजों की तरफ जैसे ध्यान दे रहे, वैसे इस चीजों के लिए भी उन्होंने ध्यान देना चाहिए। एटलीस्ट कोई एक बंदा या बंदी वहां पे होनी चाहिए कि अगर डीवी की केसेस आती है तो वो उनका सुने और उसके साथ बात करे। तो फिलहाल के लिए तो अभी हम ये देख रहे हैं।
शुक्रिया मुमताज। मैं अमृता से पूछूंगी। अमृता गार्गी, they work with Swayam Kolkata, and what has been their experience?
Thank you, Varsha. I think initially the first steps we took as soon as the lockdown was announced is to try and see कि हम लोग कैसे अपना helpline चालू रखें. So, you know, trying to get our phones going and trying to reach out to all the survivors that we work with and community women. So that was the initial reaching out to them and letting them know कि हम लोग हैं. दूसरी बात, हम लोग रिलीफ के बारे में भी काम करने लगे, because a lot of the women who are single, who are daily wage earners, or our community women who might not have an income because of the lockdown. So we did a needs test, community people carried that out on our community teams. And then we tried to do, and I think अभी तक I think 236 survivors and community women लोगों को हम relief दे पाए हैं. इसके अलावा currently we are running 5 helplines on Monday to Friday, 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. And also because, you know, this impacts mental health, and mental health needs are on the rise with loneliness, isolation, increase in violence in families. So हम लोगों का जो specialist helpline है with our counselors and therapists, so we are running those from Monday to Friday as well between 10 and 2 o'clock. We are also looking at the needs of the children. I think all of us know that being stuck in a violent household, children are also as impacted with no place to go, with schools all shut down. So we are also trying to reach out to them and providing some level of counseling support on the phone. We've given some level of messaging. Anu has done that for our survivors, some level of messaging to reassure them that we're there and they can reach out to us. And also we've been in touch with state agencies, and approximately we've worked with about 425 women in the last 2.5 weeks. And yes, as everybody is saying and will say, that we are seeing an increase in cases that's coming to us. But I think a lot of us will see a lot more cases come in after the lockdown is lifted, because a lot of the women might not be able to access, because we are getting email referrals a lot more. So we are thinking whether text, we need to do text se baat karna chahiye, because sabke paas phone access nahi hai. But I think Gargi, my colleague, will talk a little more about the direct cases that we are handling and what are the challenges we are facing. Gargi.
Yes, thank you, Amrita. What I want to say कि हमारे पास जो नए केसेस आते हैं ज्यादातर घर में बंद है, तो and with the perpetrator, so there is very difficult how we are sometimes we are feeling really very helpless that they are not coming out from that situation, but still we are giving them some kind of suggestions, like very little safety plan we are providing. We are asking them that whenever they are in with the perpetrators, they should be careful, and if possible lock the door from the inside, and also keep the utensils, maybe use as a heating weapon like the kitchen knife, the kerosene, the acid. They should keep it as possible as a secret place. And also we are telling all the women that you should keep the local police station number along with you in your phone number to save the number, because it is very necessary. और हम क्या देख रहे हैं, ये लॉकडाउन के पीरियड में एक ही लोग काम कर रहे हैं ज्यादातर, वो है पुलिस. वो जैसे रेशन भी दे रहे हैं, वो विमेन के पास भी है, क्योंकि अभी आज ही एक केस है हमारे डिस्ट्रिक्ट के पास से, क्योंकि द परपिट्रेटर इज इन्फ्लिक्टिंग मच टॉर्चर अपन द गर्ल. सो क्या हुआ, पुलिस ने बोला उनके फादर को भी आप बोलो उनको फोन करने के लिए, हम लोग उनको जाके लेके आएंगे. So these are also happening. Police is here to help us only because other than the state agencies, POs, we have talked with the POs. They are saying we are very helpless because we don't have much what I say. ज्यादातर मेरे पास कोई सामान नहीं है कि हम क्या करें, हम ज्यादातर ज्यादा फोन कर सकते हैं. So we are heavily depend upon the police and also the headquarters. Like in Kolkata, Lal Bazar is the city headquarters. They are very proactive, and also for the district, our district headquarters also very proactive. Whenever we are calling them, they are picking up the phone and listening what we are saying, and also try to give the suggestions. हम क्या कर सकते हैं यहाँ, अभी क्या कर सकते हैं, ये सब बोल रहे हैं.
I just wanted to add to Gargi's point. Gargi, will you add something, or can I just add?
No, you just.
I just wanted to add that both our communities, and I mentioned we have an urban community, we work in a rural community. Udhar pe, as usual, we are continuing to reach out to our survivors, and because we have community groups which run with, that makes it easier to reach out to them because somebody knows somebody. So udhar pe thoda bahut hum logon ka help mil raha hai. Also to give out ration and also to support the survivors. There was a case in our urban community where one of the community members was able to escort one of the women to the police station, like Anurita mentioned. And I think we are also trying our best to give them a level of support. However, the question is, these are our existing women. A lot of the new cases are coming, and I think I've read a global statistics that there's been a 75% increase in search on Google on domestic violence help globally. So keeping that in mind, I think all of us are seeing that on our websites, the kind of the footfall. However, there are some cases which we have had a positive outcome, that we worked with new cases. Jahan pe there was a survivor who had to leave in the middle of the night, but luckily her mother's house was nearby and she could walk there, or another survivor who could go to another friend's house. But this is a very rare case because most people are actually stuck in the house, and we are also talking about other dynamics which I think we will explore around the whole insecurity, about economic insecurity, loss of wage, mental health problems, being single, lonely, physical disability. So there's a whole range of issues. It's not all black and white. And top it all, having children in the house who might or might not have needs. I think it's a huge stress factor, and I think women are adversely affected because of this lockdown, and I think it's a global statistics that's coming out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amrita and Gargi. I'd like to ask Farzana and Elka if they can talk about how they're working on this, and then we can move to the next.
Maybe can I add, can I start from My Choices Foundation, Pearl here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. During this lockdown, our counselors have also quickly adapted to the changing scenario, the COVID-19 situation, and have been responding and reaching out to victims via phone, WhatsApp, and email. And just during the past 9 days in April, our team was able to receive 24 new cases. So this is very encouraging. Yes, many are not still reaching out, but at least 24 women. These are all new cases, and we were also able to contact our old clients, our already existing clients, and we're able to reach at least 156 women. And we got a mixed response from all of them. Where some of them, when we directed them to WPS, they got immediate response. When we encouraged them to dial 100, we had one client where when she called 100, less than 10 minutes, the police were able to come and help, and they told the husband to task. I mean, they took the husband to task, and they also threatened him that he will be put in the jail, and until lockdown, he will not be removed. So that was a very proactive thing. And some occasions we had challenges taking the help of police because of their tight schedule during the COVID-19 thing. But overall, our relationship with the women's police station in the North Zone area here and the South Zone area around Charminar area, this has been a very supportive relationship. And one thing I also must tell is our model of peacemakers, that is trained community women, our field staff have also been a great help along with our team of counselors. So whenever the client who's called up had been in and around the vicinity of the client whom we were having a session on the phone, the peacemakers in turn connected them, gave them hope that they live in and around that community, at least in the places where we work, the 5 counseling centers in Hyderabad, Secunderabad, and Warangal. So that has also been a very encouraging thing for the clients whoever shared that they're going through domestic violence. And some of them were able to reach out to their family. Some of them were able to reach out to their friends. But overall, most of them are still suffering because all of them can't really have these chances to go out. So this has been our experience, and we're very happy that at least our peacemakers and counselors are doing their bit. When they call up these old clients, they're feeling very happy that they're connected. Somebody who is already going through the problem once again, if it is recurring, they're happy that there's some mechanism that people are looking out for them intentionally. This has been some of our experiences, Varsha.
Thank you so much. Jayashree, if you can talk about like how Jagori is.
Yes. 1 minute. Shall I? Am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. I would like to talk about 3-4 aspects of our work here. As I shared in the beginning, we are running our helplines, mobile and landline. Both the landline calls are getting forwarded on our mobile, and couple of communities where we work, our team members are receiving calls on helplines there also. So our experience, we started working from home from 17th March, actually afternoon. So since then, these helplines are with our counselors. They have carried it to their homes. And since then, including this lockdown period till today, our experience is the number of calls has definitely gone down. There are several reasons behind that. And we need to understand that all calls are not necessarily of fresh or new cases of violence. Many of our survivors who have already registered with ourselves, they are also calling for follow-up things. Some have their cases pending, some had to visit a lot and things like that. So we get all kinds of calls. We continue to get those kind of calls. I would say there is a almost 50% reduction in the number of calls that we have so far received. Here we have to take into consideration that a woman needs to feel completely secure, and she should feel confident enough that whenever she is calling, nobody is able to hear she talking about her problems in the Marathi. Because of lockdown, since all the family members and also children are at home, so obviously women are not finding any time and space to make those calls. Also, we all know that making phone calls, because we also have walk-in center, as I said, in our Shivalik office. So obviously that cannot be functional. And we used to get many cases there. That has completely stopped, because as we know, only 38% women in India have mobile phones. So there is already a gender imbalance in the kind of resources women have to make these complaints. Add to that the physical and other restrictions that this lockdown has put. This, of course, does not mean that the domestic violence or violence against women, why only domestic, has gone down. And here we need to see that there may not be calls, and women may be reporting only beatings or other forms of violence. But we also need to take cognizance of the fact of stories that are coming. We work in Jharkhand, and from Jharkhand and also from some of our communities, the stories that we are getting, that whatever rations the governments are trying to provide or the NGOs that are trying to provide is inadequate to begin with. There are several issues, practical issues. We all know all are not getting access to e-coupons, even if the government has announced e-coupons, and some don't have papers, so they are not allowed to take the rations. And whatever meager rations they are getting, women will always get very very small portion of that. So the structural violence, as I would like to call it, that food distribution, unequal food distribution that women always are subjected to, actually has been exacerbated in these present conditions. Simple things like masks. Even if some NGO is distributing masks, they end up wearing, using their dupattas or pallus or some piece of cloth, So third thing I want to say that these things women will not report to us necessarily as cases of violence. Third thing, we all know that unpaid care work has been women's burden. And with this lockdown, I think one of my co-panelists mentioned right in the beginning that with the lockdown, the demand to continuously cook or provide things to the family members, those needs, also attending these kind of needs, care needs in the community has gone up, is what we hear from Jharkhand especially, because a lot of migrant workers have now gone back to the villages. They have fallen sick after that long, arduous journeys. And because of lack of rations and because of this anxiety, there is a lot of sickness, and women have to attend to all that. So that part of, I would call it domestic violence, has gone up. Women will not complain to you, call you and tell you that this has gone up, but we need to be cognizant of that. And thirdly, I want to say that, generally we like to look at domestic violence. We try to visualize, or popular perception is only beatings or verbal abuse. But we all know that there must be a lot of forced, unprotected sex that women are subjected to. My friend Mumtaz mentioned that there is a lot of demand for physical relations, and if she refuses, she will be subjected to more violence. And unprotected sex and forced sex, they have serious health consequences for our women. I'll come to the part what government services are doing and actually are not doing in this regard later on. But I'm just flagging the issue here that this also we need to look at as part of domestic sphere violence. The third thing that Jagori is doing, like many other sister organizations, is relief work. And in one of our communities, we distributed dry rations to women who had no access to ration cards for whatever reasons. And very recently, we have supported efforts to provide rations to sex workers in Jharkhand, because that is another vulnerable population group. In fact, in such situations, they will be the most vulnerable, one of the most vulnerable groups in population. So we have decided to do as much as possible. All our communities team members are getting a lot of requests and a lot of demands. They are doing their own assessments that what women are saying that sometimes we get ration inadequate, don't have namak and masala, and we do not have cash to buy that. We do not have cash to buy soaps, and our government is asking everyone to wash hands, which is very, very required during this time. So, these kind of things are also coming, these kind of needs. And basically, women are expected to fulfill these kind of needs in the family. So they are coming with this kind of requests. So Jagori is trying to do as much as possible. We are trying to get in touch with the local authorities for demands like LPG cylinders, demands like medicines. People are falling sick, and not all our communities have mohalla clinic. They are running only for a couple of hours. There is one mohalla clinic. In one community, that mohalla clinic was closed after a couple of doctors there tested positive for corona, and there were few private doctors who were operating in those bastis who have been asked by the government to stop practicing and to report to the nearby hospital. People have no access to any kind of medical or health services for simple complaints like fever, cold and cough, stomach upset, children's problems, nothing. We got to know about 2 cases where women needed help to reach hospital for delivery. And in one of the localities, one of the bastis, what the residents did was they approached the police who were keeping vigil at the barricade, and they told the problem, and thankfully the police helped that woman. They put her in their van and reached her to a hospital. So that is how people are actually trying to deal, and wherever the police is cooperative, this is happening. But in terms of violence, when we tried to find out how many helplines are functional in north belt of India, we didn't try to see what is happening all India, but we try to look at the number of one-stop centers that are functional, number of helplines that are functional, how many shelters are functional in Delhi. And what we found out that in UP, Delhi, Jharkhand, MP and Haryana, around 30 one-stop centers are working. The others, their numbers, phone numbers are functional, but no one picked up. So we have no clue whether they are functional or not. 181, we tried to talk to many people and other organizations also, and we found out that 181 has not been, the response there is not very satisfactory. Number 100, people generally resort to call 100. But what people are telling us, what women are telling us in our communities is they are scared. Looking at the videos of police atrocities and beatings up, they are scared to approach police for any help, even if they are facing violence in their homes. And this is a very serious matter. And when we talk about recommendations later on, we need to keep this issue, and we need, as feminist organizations, we need to collectively tell the government that this needs to be taken care of in all the SOPs that come out, whether it is disaster, whether it is pandemic, whatever you want to call it. As Anurita has already flagged, I think we need to tell them that their standard operating procedures or disaster management plans, national, district, state, whatever it is, have to be gender sensitive. And especially this scare that women are having to approach police is very, very serious. The other thing that we found out that there are almost, in fact, 32 helplines that are being run by NGOs, like Swayam has said, and Koro and Jagori, and in many other states, at least 1, 2 such helplines are working, and I think they are trying to cope. Our experience of running a helpline is, at the moment, we are only able to provide the woman the first level of emotional support and psychosocial support. But the referral services that are needed, if she needs legal aid, if she needs to file a case, or if she needs to approach police, those things at the moment are not possible. That is putting restriction even with the limited number of cases, fresh cases that have approached us, or the ongoing cases also. I would like to mention here that in Delhi, TIS's special cell has been helping what they call social service units, not special cells, but social service units. They have set up in 20 either Mahila Thanas or some other police station in 10 districts of Delhi. And I happened to talk to the coordinator of that service, and she told me that currently, generally they work 24/7. There are 3 shifts, but presently, because of the transport problems, they are running only 2 shifts. And she was sharing few examples with me where the councillors did receive requests by one very old single woman. She said, I'm locked down in my house and I have nobody to help me and I need food. And this councillor got in touch with the Thana, and somehow they managed to get some food for her. So something like this also is taking place. I will stop here now.
Thank you so much, Jayashree. I mean, it's very clear that there is either over dependence on police, as Amrita and Gargi shared, that police is supposed to do everything, and or there is an over dependence on organization NGOs to because when from Breakthrough we were curating the helpline numbers, it's mostly the NGO numbers which are working, NGO numbers which are mostly people are reaching out to, and not much with the government mechanism other than some on a one-stop crisis center working in different areas. But yes, there's no guarantee to it, right? So there it's like it's it's a big challenge, like as you rightly mentioned, like that was even my what I understood from this discussion so far is like from the NGOs we can थोड़ा सा एक लेवल का सपोर्ट हम प्रोवाइड कर सकते हैं, मगर अगर जो एग्जिस्टिंग मशीनरीज है, प्रोटेक्शन ऑफिसर्स अगर नहीं है, अगर पुलिस स्टेशन में लोग कम हैं, काम नहीं हो रहा है, तो या जैसे बोला जा रहा है ना कि पुरुष बहुत फ्रस्ट्रेटेड है, उनको दारू नहीं मिल रहे हैं तो वो बाहर नहीं जा पा रहे हैं, तो वो आके महिलाओं को पीट रहे हैं, ऐसे जो वजह बताए जाते हैं उसके वजह से भी बहुत रिपोर्टिंग शायद इतना सीरियसली नहीं लेंगे पुलिस जितना शायद दूसरे टाइम पे लेंगे, क्योंकि पूरा जो कंसंट्रेशन है सबका पूरा मशीनरी का वो कोविड रिस्पांस पे है। इस पे एक्चुअली मेरा ये सवाल है कि इसमें हम लोग बाईस्टैंडर्स जिसको बोलते हैं, जो हमारे आसपास के लोग हैं, जो नेबर्स हैं, जो या जैसे अभी कुछ डिलीवरी सर्विसेज, जो इमरजेंसी सर्विसेज अभी जो खुले हैं, जो लोग थोड़ा बहुत आ जा रहे हैं, क्या हम लोग उनके साथ कुछ कर सकते हैं ताकि हम लोग फर्स्ट लेवल पे जो हम लोग जैसे ब्रेकथ्रू का एक कैंपेन है बेल बजाओ के बस इंटरवीन करिए, जाइए और इंटरवीन कीजिए ताकि वो ब्रेक हो, तो अगर क्या हम लोग आप सबसे मैं देवयानी को भी पूछूंगी कि what is your suggestion? How can we increase these kind of bystander intervention, जिनको हम good bystanders बोलते हैं, to intervene? Because at this point of time, it's not even suggestible that you go and go to somebody's house and do this because of this whole physical distancing bit. But just knock the door or do something, or get a clue on the door, whether so that people can realize that there's something wrong happening inside. We'd like to hear from you if you have any suggestion or any idea which we can basically amplify.
Actually, may I?
Yeah, Jaya, please go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Gargi speaking from Swan. Actually, you see, kya hai? Dekho, as a normal time, we are used to do this. Na? Whenever we sit with the survivors, we are telling them that please ask help from your neighbors, ask help from the...
Gargi, can you please speak into the mic? We can barely hear you. Please speak into the mic.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. So, during this lockdown period, it is really difficult. Whenever we talk to the survivors, as Jayashree told, that the older survivors also who are already come to Swayam, see where are they going, especially in the slum area. Maybe they can ask for the next door neighbors help, okay, but for the ऐसे जैसे apartment से भी phone आते हैं, हाँ, तो वहाँ तो it's very difficult कि कैसे जाके वो एक चीट रख के आए, तो वो चीट उनको मिले कि नहीं. I am thinking whenever you ask these questions, that how we can address, how we can tell the women that we can, you can getting support from your neighbors also and from the delivery boys, because in most of the localities the delivery boys are seldom coming. Very few delivery boys are there, so it's very difficult that how they can reach to the people to stop the violence. And especially, actually, we are getting calls from the older women also, and it's very difficult for them to reach out the people also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we recently put up a creative from Breakthrough where we were just requesting people, if you already know somebody's in an abusive relationship, please keep a tab, just call that person, encourage people to at least text if they're not able to speak, because at times it gets difficult to call.
And also, for the older people, in the normal time, the daughters, sons are visiting them. But during lockdown, they can't come, and so they feel more vulnerable in this situation, you know. अभी बहुत ज़्यादा vulnerable उनको feel हो रहा है. केवल phone पे बात कर सकती है. Other than that, and senior citizen line helpline भी काम नहीं कर रहे हैं हमारी यहाँ, तो हम लोग सीधा से एकदम पुलिस स्टेशन में ही बात कर रहे हैं regarding that.
Amrita wants to. Amrita, you.
Amrita.
And I would also like to make a point, Anurita, here after Amrita.
Oh, Anurita. Yeah.
The point is, yes, we have to depend on civil society, which is you and me together, to intervene in situations of violence. But before that, I think there is a responsibility on the state to put up some messaging. I mean, I think Gargi mentioned today there was a message, there was an ad about violence against women. But generally, if all the state machineries and the celebrities could put up all these fabulous washing your hand videos in 5 minutes of the virus spreading, I'm sure they can come up with better advertisements and taking violence against women as a serious issue. So we do need endorsements. I think this is something we discussed with Breakthrough, that unfortunately or fortunately in a country like ours, we do need celebrities to say something like speak up, don't accept, reach out for help. Some kind of a key messaging as well as safety plan needs to go from the state, as this constant messaging that goes on our television from the state and the celebrity, that will then make it easier for neighbors to intervene, or the Swiggy boy to intervene, or the next door neighbor to intervene. We need that messaging to go across. This is not, I mean, globally organizations, countries are taking it very seriously. You know, they are saying that this is an epidemic and women are being given additional support, given the right to leave the house. In UK, women are given the right to leave the house during lockdown if they're facing violent situations. There's more funding being given by other organizations. So I think we need to look outside the box, and the state needs to recognize and take ownership of this situation.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we have seen like Kerala government recently put up one advertisement where they clearly stated that you can, you can end up in lockup from lockdown. So it's like very nicely they have done and given the numbers and like really giving good focus. I would actually like to know from Paro. She has joined from Koro, and she has worked in Nepal and helped to put up these kind of helplines in Nepal to whether to address domestic violence. Paro.
Yeah. Hi, Barsha.
Yeah. Hi, Paro.
Yeah, I was actually in a conversation with Koro yesterday, trying to understand how they are dealing with the domestic violence situation. And I've been in Nepal for the last 10 years. I happened to be in India when the lockdown happened. So I'm providing long distance support. I'm actually working with the National Women's Commission in Nepal, and they have a helpline project that just started 2 years ago. And so they were not, they're not even equipped, fully functional helpline. And then this crisis happens. And so one of the things that we started doing with the Women's Commission was, what I proposed was that we need to immediately put out protocols for different service providers. And we realized very quickly, like all of you have said, that the police seems to be the most mobile, the most mobile of service providers who are actually able to and allowed to reach out. That's one. And but the other problem was that just like in India, even in Nepal, the police is getting overwhelmed with this whole, enforcing of the lockdown and sort of policing the lockdown. So they're not really in any space to entertain domestic complaints, right? So one of the first things that we've done is draft protocols for the police. For them to actually, when they're going around making public service announcements in communities, like it's a lockdown, please don't get out of your houses, maintain physical distance, that in those messages, they include messaging on domestic violence, like from lockdown to lockup, those kind of some, local, I don't know, they're still working on it. So the idea has gone out from the National Women's Commission that we need to mobilize the police for this, for intervening with perpetrators at home. That's one. We have to use all kinds of modes of communication. So in the society where I live in Gurgaon, I've sent out WhatsApp messages on the society WhatsApp groups saying, I've sent out the videos that have come up from Jagori, from other organizations saying, speak up, these are the numbers, and I've given my number as well. And I immediately realized that that was the most foolish thing to do. Because in Nepal, when the women shifted from the helpline office of the National Women's Commission to their homes to start working, they were using their mobile phones, their own personal mobile phones. And then they started getting threatening calls. So then we started this whole thing, okay, we need protocols for people providing remote support as well, because people are not used to, most of the service providers are not used to providing remote support. So what do you do there? So putting in place mechanisms for remote support to happen, protocols for the police and protocols for shelter homes, because shelter homes started saying that we are not going to take any new survivor in because of the threat of infection. And that is unethical. We need to protect current, survivors, residents of the shelter home. At the same time, make space for taking in new women, because women are coming in. Rapes have not stopped. Rapes are happening. They are not getting reported. Women are scared to step out of their houses because of the same problem. But when they do come out, they should have the shelter homes should be open to take them in. So then there had to be a huge campaign and a message from the Ministry of Women going out saying shelter homes are open and the police have the responsibility to actually rescue women and bring them to shelter homes. Now in India, the Domestic Violence Act also has a provision for actually removing the perpetrator. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yes.
So, that kind of darana, dhamkana, ki isko yahan se tum, I don't know. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head whether these kind of things can happen. The police
may I jump in a little slightly just to give a little bit of my thoughts on this?
Yes.
Only on the specific question on bystander intervention. What I have noticed in the last 6 weeks is हम लोग किसी के घर जाके किसी को हेल्प कर नहीं सकते. बाहर अगर घर से निकलेंगे तो पुलिस हम लोग को ही डांटेगी और धमका के अंदर भेज देगी. पर एक चीज जो बहुत अच्छे तरीके से हो रही है कि जब प्राइम मिनिस्टर नेशन को एड्रेस करता है तो almost everyone in the country is listening to the prime minister. जो प्लेटफॉर्म आज प्राइम मिनिस्टर के पास है वो शायद 6 महीने पहले नहीं था, क्योंकि हम लोग सब सुन रहे हैं. ये प्लेटफॉर्म अगर प्राइम मिनिस्टर यूज करें इस मैसेजिंग को थ्रू करने के लिए कि डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस बच्चों के तरफ, औरतों के तरफ, ओल्ड लोगों के, बुजुर्ग लोगों की तरफ, डिसेबल्ड पर्सन्स के लिए, ये एक एंटी नेशनल एक्टिविटी है. आई एम सॉरी आई एम यूजिंग दीज टर्म्स, बट अगर ये मैसेजिंग लोगों को समझ आती है और अगर ये प्लेटफॉर्म यूज हो सकता है तो थोड़ा एटीट्यूड चेंज करना बहुत जरूरी है. कोविड एक तरीके से एक प्लेटफॉर्म दे रहा है कुछ मैसेजिंग को थ्रू करने के लिए, और अगर हम लोग एज सिविल सोसाइटी प्राइम मिनिस्टर को किसी तरीके से ये चीज फॉरवर्ड कर सकें कि प्लीज, हम लोग हेल्थ वर्कर्स के लिए अपलॉड कर रहे हैं, हम लोग प्रेयर कर रहे हैं मेंटल. पिछली बार प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने मेंटल हेल्थ की बात करी कि हम लोग डिप्रेस हो सकते हैं, वी आर ऑल इन इट टुगेदर. तो हम लोग ये भी प्राइम मिनिस्टर इसको भी एक मुद्दा बना सकते हैं कि डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस इज समथिंग व्हिच इज नॉट appreciated. The country is going to come down strongly on it. There should be a strong messaging that there will be no impunity. We will prosecute, we will punish, the police will be behind this. जब तक ये messaging top से नहीं आएगी, response on the ground will be ad hoc, will be dependent on individuals on the post. कुछ states में अच्छा होगा, कुछ states में sporadic होगा, कुछ states में कुछ भी नहीं होगा. We cannot afford to let that happen. That's my personal opinion on this issue कि किसी तरीके से center में prime minister को impress करना जरूरी है इस problem से.
Thank you so much, Devyani. I mean, I can feel that it can be one of our action points where we can, if we can, commonly write something to the PMO and urge him to, include domestic violence and talk about this issue, that how this is increasing and how this is becoming very alarming with so many factors attached to it. It'll be really great. And also like this kind of top-down messaging to reach more people so that people take it more seriously. Because we have not much time left, we have around 15 minutes to discuss, and then we can open this whole session for more questions.
Barsha,
yeah.
I just want to add here before we move on to the next question.
Sure.
Here, I just want to say that because we were talking about the bystander, and given the COVID situation where we're forced to do social distancing, it is important that we use all other mediums of communication to educate the bystanders on how to intervene when they see situations of domestic violence. And I think that the Bell Bajao ad is something that we have to restart and, see how either through the center or the different state governments that because they have the bandwidth to take this up and be able to show this through their national channels or, other channels. But I think that because the period is less now, dekhte lockdown period bhi ho jayega. By next week, we will know whether this is on, no, or maybe extended by another 2 weeks. Within these 2 weeks, next 2 weeks, what we can do locally, statewide and nationally is what, I think we should all be, all the civil society, who are working in this space should be thinking about communities. All of us are trying to reach out through our community workers. But I think radio and TV are very good channels. And because we already, I think, have in 17 languages translated the ad, I think that's a good way to educate the bystanders.
Thank you so much, Archie. Thank you so much.
Barsha, can I just have a word?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, about the messaging from the Prime Minister and such top echelons of Government of India. I want to say something about that. That will be a good idea if really from the top level the message goes out. It will create an impact also for the service providers in the government sector.
Yes.
And they need to be sensitive, and they need to help out women in these situations. While saying so, I also want to remind you that some women's groups have come up with a statement and a set of recommendations. And in that, they have appealed the Prime Minister to avoid usage of words like Lakshman Rekha, because that itself is a patriarchal concept. So while we demand such things, we also need to keep our feminist lens on. And one thing which I wanted to tell you that when we talk about domestic violence, one important matter which has really we feminists need to raise a lot of voice against is the relaxation of PCPNDT rules till June 30th that the government has announced. Only the Telegraph from Kolkata in its 8th April edition has published this news item where it says that the ministry has said that the mandatory reporting of the number of ultrasound sonography cases that the doctors do is they are mandated by the law to report that figure. They have relaxed this till June 30th because of Corona and because of the overload. Now, what is the connection? We have no idea. What is the logic and rationale? We have no idea. But this should not become, for the unscrupulous doctors and providers, become a blanket kind of a permission to conduct sex selection and sex determination tests and provide sonography for that. And that also is part of DV. So we need to really raise our voices against that. Not many have, this has not been publicized because only one newspaper has picked up. So we need to make a lot of noise, and if through this, and I hope you will be coming to the recommendations part later, or do you want me to cover recommendations right now?
Yes. Yeah. So the next question was like if we can have like 3-4 recommendations from each one of you working, also Devyani from the legal point of view, and yeah.
So should I continue or should I come back later on?
It's okay, you can.
Barsha, I
okay.
wanted to make a point.
Yeah, okay.
This is coming from our own experience, wherein it's through the Mahila Kendras in select districts that we're reaching out to women from the last 6 months or the new 5 cases, which are lockdown related. Now, when we also wanted to, I spoke to the protection officers. Right now, they are actually burdened with COVID duties. Hence, they're not able to respond, and their only answer is the OSCs are functioning and you refer to 181 helpline. Now, in a remote village, when a woman is agreed and she wants shelter, like the recent case that we are handling in Upper Assam, they are out of reach, which are located in the district headquarters. So it's very, very important that, we feel that shelter homes of any nature, whether they belong to the Swadhyay scheme or to the Ujjwala or to the, the OSCs, must take in women. However, these shelter homes are also now bound by their own protocols, and they really do not know how, as I said, to admit women into the homes. So this is women are now compromising and returning to these violence home, which is a big concern to us. And because we haven't received, or normally we don't receive complaints on emails, everything is on phone. And then when we are trying, because we are reaching out to these women, we have approached her, we are also now finding that some of these women have kept their phones off. What would that mean? Because they're saying that they want to remain, probably they're feeling that they want to remain in these violent homes and not communicate further because they might be under huge threats. So it's really becoming very, very complex. And I think there was a question in the chat. I would really say, along with the passerby intervention, just get to know the people the frontline workers who are in that area, the Asha Karmis, the Anganwadis, like the way we had done, approach them. Though they don't have specific guidelines on domestic violence, but they must respond to these kinds of situations.
Thank you, Anurita. Yes.
Shall I go?
Okay, Farzana, if we can come back to the recommendation bit, because I think we have actually kind of getting an idea about like what are the issues. So,
I'm talking about recommendation only, Barsha.
Yeah, thank you, Farzana.
Yeah, so a lot of issues already came up, or along with the issues, suggestions also came. So we have to look these recommendations in two ways. One, how civil society can help, and the government and civil society both can come together and help this situation. In that, what I want to tell, since there is a data speaks a lot. Smriti Irani recently held this video conference only after seeing the National Women Commission's data and international reports. So my strong recommendation is, if state-wise, because all the NGOs are here from different part of the country, so if we can have data compilation from all the states very quickly, because we all are running helplines, we have our own sources of getting cases, and we keep providing those data to our even state women commissions and Ministry of Women and Child Development, that would be more helpful for them to take action, because data speaks a lot. So this data need to be feeded in very quickly to the state mechanism. And the second recommendation that we want to make quickly, that in this lockdown, if we all know and we all discussed, like if we don't have very clear-cut guidelines from the ministry or from higher ups, local level, it is not going to percolate. And people do here and there as per their, if in some states police is good, they will help in some areas, but otherwise it's not going to work. So guidelines must come from authorities, higher ups. And my suggestion, what we were talking about, this writing to PMO, and if he can give the message, my strong recommendation is Varsha, because we all are living in digital world, and our Prime Minister is very, tech savvy. He is always on Twitter. So maybe we can have a Twitter storm, and all the NGOs can, we can decide the date and timings, and we can tag him and ask him to, come up with some messaging for the nation on domestic violence. That could be a very quick, step that we can take. We can write to PMO also as well. We can send the recommendation, everything. But Twitter can be a very useful tool right now to prompt him to, address the issue. And yeah, and then what Archie said, like for these bystanders, we can have these helpline numbers which can be advertised. Like, they are putting a lot of advertisement regarding safety and COVID to counter the COVID situation, all the hand wash, hygiene and everything. In addition to that, if they can advertise these helpline numbers also, that would be great. So we can make this recommendation also, like all the national televisions especially need to advertise the message and the helpline numbers. One more strong, recommendation we want to make, because this is working very well in our case, where these ASHA workers, we have a lot of ASHA workers as our peacemakers, and we know they are still active in the community, these ASHA workers and Anganwaris. Yes. So if in that guideline, Ministry or National Women Commission, or from the Ministry of Women and Child Development, they can have a very specific guidelines for these ASHA workers also, how to approach women, because they go to, many a times they go even to door also. They know all the community across. So they can pass this messaging to the family, to the women, that in such situation, how to take help. And some dedicated, helpline numbers can be given to them. One more suggestion, because at this moment government cannot take so much load, so as a civil society we can tie up for lockdown period, we can tie up with these one-stop centers, like if our civil society is willing to render their services, so we can do a preliminary, if they have a lot of load of cases, these Sakhi centers or maybe one-stop centers, the NGOs can partner to them according to their area and bandwidth, where they can provide at least phone counseling or preliminary screening, and based on the severity they can immediate make next steps to these centers. So I think these are the recommendations that we can have with us, and we can forward it to ministry. Or
thank you so much,
Barsha, can I come in here for this ASHA?
Yeah.
I think ASHA workers are already really burdened with lot of work, with almost no payment for that. Yeah. So I mean, we always find that she is with the community and she is in direct touch with men there all the time. So we always see her as our first ally in many of these situations, particularly faced by women. But I'm really let us think twice before putting more work on her people. That would be my
yeah, Jayashree, what I'm trying to
we cannot have probably that argument here, because
no, what I'm saying, she can just pass that message that services are open, you can seek help. I'm not asking her to take the women to police station or do any other. So just a contact, because women generally need some number, some assurance.
Okay, my 2-3 recommendations that I really want to strongly suggest at Jagori is firstly, all the helplines, whether they are government, whether they are NGO, all the helplines. And the government has invoked the Disaster Management Act 2005, which is meant for extraordinary situations. And I have gone through that act, which creates a lot of structures to deal with the situation. So within all that framework, this can really perfectly fit. So they should announce all the helplines as essential service. We help to women in distress, single women, trans people, sex workers, children. I read a report somewhere that child abuse, those helplines are swarmed with calls, which shows how safe our families are, so-called, I mean, we all are told our family is the safest place, but that has come out. So we need to say very vociferously, we should demand that this should be declared as essential service. Similarly, all the reproductive, especially reproductive health services, reproductive and sexual health services like abortions, delivery, contraception should be considered essential service. All the contraceptives, including condoms and sanitary napkins, should be considered essential commodities. So whenever supply chain issues are dealt with, there should be a focus on this, because this directly, as I said, during this lockdown period, and with so many migrant population having traveled back to their villages, I foresee a huge increase in women getting more reproductive tract infections, sexually transmitted infections, unwanted pregnancies, and we have closed down all those services. So currently, if a woman needs an abortion, she won't be able to travel to that facility, and the facility has been asked, the health centers and the hospitals have been asked to stop all the services and do only corona. I think government needs to realize that और भी गम है ज़माने में कोरोना के सिवा. So women need this, and if we don't give her timely abortion services, after a few weeks, it may not remain a choice. And these are life-altering decisions someone else is taking for that woman. So we need to strongly come on this. And what I found out when I read this National Disaster, the Disaster Management Act, and the kind of scheme, the kind of structure that they have talked about, and various state governments, I tried to look into the Home Ministry and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare guidelines that have come in for relief, barring somewhere one small provision for widows and orphans. There is hardly anything for women there. Forget violence, even services, there is hardly anything. So I think as a learning from this pandemic and the kind of sufferings that all our poor women especially are going through, I think as women's groups, we need to collectively brainstorm and come up with a document, and we take it to, and we do that advocacy, and we take it to the government and say that this is what your disaster response should include. Gender concerns are given. So we need to work on that. There are a lot of possibilities even within the present structure that they have created under this Disaster Act, which can give us some space to do this advocacy. But we need to, for that, we will also need to get what kind of guidelines different state lines have come up. I couldn't, for want of time, I couldn't check whether Kerala has, which has done so well on so many other counts, whether they have anything specific for women, violence against women. We can check, but we also study what other state governments have done, what other agencies have done. And there are so many statements, so many guidelines that are floating around. We need to study and come up with a solid document. That would be one of the last and strongest recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayashree. Amrita.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So I don't want to repeat the points that's already been said. I think one of the key things, it does need a national level campaign, whether it's a Twitter one or something else, where we do act as a pressure group. And I think that's a conversation that has already started with Aman, which is the national network or a platform for organizations and individuals working on violence against women. The few other key points I wanted to raise is, I think there needs to be more resource for frontline services, any form of helpline that is providing support. And also, if this continues, I think we need to keep in mind there would be a burnout rate. If there isn't already a burnout rate, I think somewhere we need to address that before it gets too late, because working in isolation for frontline caseworkers at any level is very, very hard. And I think we need to acknowledge and put mechanisms in place. I also read, I can't remember which country, that they have opened up hotels and hostels to act as shelters. So this is simplistic. If the shelter homes are not taking in new cases to stop the virus from spreading, okay, that's fine. Whether we can have an alternative, the alternative can be hotels and hostels, whether that can be explored. And also to give some kind of a directive that the police do take immediate and consistent action when a case of violence is coming up across the country and addressing it. It needs to be also a national level kind of a messaging, which we've already talked about. The other thing as a Aman network we had put across is looking at making organizations working on domestic violence and sexual violence as declare them as emergency services, so they can access women as well as protection officers, whether they start functioning as the police officers are functioning. Because one of the conversations was, we have the initial conversation and safety plan, but what happens next? So that's some level of support, and whether we can have some panel of lawyers who are active and start some level of work and legal advice for the survivors. And also whether we can provide some level of transport, shelter, getting them out of the situation. Economic conversation we've started, but we've not been able to deal with on a large scale the whole issue of loss of wages or children or mental health issues. That's a whole different gamut, which I don't think we have the time. But I think a campaign and having some kind of a top-down messaging, whoever gives the messaging, somewhere it reaches out to everybody. I think that's very, very crucial at this hour. So yeah, and if Gargi wants to add something to it, Gargi?
Hi, this is Devyani. Someone had put in a specific question on what can be done legally. So I thought I would just pitch in a little bit and say that we need to recognize that there are fresh cases and then there are already existing matters of domestic violence. And as things stand, almost everything is at a standstill when it comes to courts. So we need to find mechanisms to get the courts to recognize that these are urgent matters and they should start hearing them. And most of the points have been covered, that lawyers have to be mobilized. There are lawyers that are working in pockets all over the country, trying to get the attention of the magistrates, the high courts. The judiciary, higher judiciary can be made cognizant of the situation on the ground. They may not know that protection officers are being deputed to do other work. They may not be aware that one-stop centers are working or not working. So some of this can be, while the messaging to the Prime Minister is one side, the other side is also to make the higher judiciary cognizant of the situation on the ground, and a lot of times they are not aware. To give out directions like they have been doing on prisons, they can also do it on this matter. The other thing was, one great thing is the NCW is cognizant of what's going on, so they can be roped in to do a lot more. They can start, and as Ms. Rekha Sharma herself said, that they'll be speaking to the states. They can also start talking to the judiciary to inform the DLSAs to start functioning, to get the lawyers to start functioning, to respond better. So those would be some of the things I would suggest that can be done on that front.
Thank you, Devyani. Gargi, you want to add something?
Sorry, I just wanted to add another point, that I think we need to continue this beyond the lockdown period, that this is not a conversation that ends whether on 15th or on the 30th, because as we know that most women would be adversely affected in terms of the economic angle. So they'll be the first to lose the jobs if they haven't already lost jobs, the daily wage laborers. So I think somewhere the economic and trying to get them back on their feet, I think is something that we need to make as a recommendation. Although there are all, and also about food, whether they're getting, it's not what we're seeing in our communities is maybe the ration is coming, but they might not have milk for the child, or they might not have kerosene or the gas to cook with. So I think there are a lot of other kind of support that's required, not just the ration that they're getting, if at all some of them are not even getting that. I think we need to keep that in mind as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to add a point, Varsha.
Yes, Anurita. Yes,
this
yes.
is to do with recommendations. Since we're talking of the recommendations, there's a national set of recommendations which are being formulated and which have been, I think, received by the NITI Aayog and the NCW. I would also like to say that at least for the state of Assam, if there are no resources which can be put in, or because given the current situation, at least the state advisory, the COVID advisory must have at least one line, if not many, to address issues of violence on women, including domestic violence, and also the role of the Legal Services Authority, the District Legal Services Authority. Their role needs to be questioned, and they should be given responsibilities to actually reach out to women, because they have a whole set of paralegal workers who are mobile in the villages, and currently they are not able to function given the restrictions. So I think they should be roped in, they should be mobilized, and that is a recommendation that we can make about the role of the District Legal Services Authority. And as I said, all COVID measures must include gender responsive recommendations by the state.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Barsha,
Okay,
one last small point.
Okay, fine, no problem.
Yeah, we are discussing domestic violence mainly, but of course we are aware that and I just want to utilize this platform to extend gratitude and thanks to all the women health workers and also male health workers. But we know that nurses, ANMs, Ayabais, what we call class 4 employees, who are working day in and day out in this corona, in spite of that danger of catching that infection themselves and suffering from stigma and verbal abuse by the communities. In spite of that, they are doing and putting a great heroic effort, and I want to just express my gratitude on behalf of all of us to these women who are really backbone of our health services. And I hope that the incident that happened in near Safdarjung, where 2 women doctors were abused, their arms were twisted and they were injured, doesn't take place anymore. And I just wanted to say that.
Thank you so much. We will open now for the questions. Shashwati, my colleague, she is already listing down, she has already listed down some question which came in the chat box. So Shashwati, I'll request you if you can share those questions, and whoever like to answer to that can feel free to answer.
Oh, thanks, Barsha. So many people were sharing questions in chat, so I have put some of them together. The chat was moving very fast. I apologize if I missed out on a question. So I will just ask them from here. First, I didn't note down whose names they were, unfortunately. Hi, is it possible to provide information on areas or hotspots where there are more DV cases in the communities you are already working in?
I feel it's more of like an NCW can give like a better idea about it, maybe where the calls are coming from, or if we can have like later in the part, if we can have some consolidated data from all the NGOs working on this. But I think right now it's a little difficult.
And
she wants to,
and if we utilize the parameter of food distribution, intra-household food distribution and unpaid care work, I think most of our localities will turn out to be hotspots.
Can I just add that if violence is impacting everybody irrespective of class, religion, society, educational background, it is impacting. We might not be getting the numbers because that woman might not have the space to call us up right now, and somebody else might be able to email us. So things will change once the lockdown finishes and we can see the real numbers. So I think there is no hotspot is in every household. If 1 in 3 women are affected, and and if like we as a small organization are seeing 33% increase in kind of new cases, I think other organizations are seeing the same. It's most households.
Absolutely.
Okay, moving on to the next question. Are all your organizations working with the so-called protection officers who are supposed to be the guardians and protectors of quote-unquote broken women? My protection officer was most non-compliant and dismissive.
If I may answer, I think I would agree with this query because, as I said earlier, because I was talking to a couple of protection officers, they just regretted saying that we are overburdened with COVID, whatever the responsibilities. Hence, we are not functioning. I mean, that cannot be the excuse, and they would normally refer cases to 181 helpline. Hence, in our recommendations, the organizations would agree that protection officers must continue with their responsibilities related to domestic violence, and if need be, they might be removed from the COVID. Given the alarming cases of violence against women, I think they might have to be. I would suggest that they should be removed from these COVID additional duties and responsibilities, but continue to play their roles and continue to respond to communities and women and organizations like ours.
Thank you, Amrita.
There is a question for Divyani. Since the courts are not working, what does the legal route look like? How should POs move?
Yeah, hi. That was the one I was addressing earlier.
Oh,
that
sorry.
we have to. So I think it's covered already.
Okay. I have a question. What can be done about men who are getting into withdrawals because they are not getting their choice of substance? The violence on their families will increase.
Who wants to go for it? I think it's a most asked question, and we were expecting this question to come for sure.
So even for a negligible percent of statistics, we are not willing to consider that women may suffer or women may show the same symptoms. We only think about men having withdrawal symptoms. Women also can have.
Which is a very good point.
Even for the sake of argument, we ourselves don't voice that out.
Okay, I shall go to the next question. Have helplines switched to text-based support, or are the helplines still phone call based?
It's a bit of both.
I think HCW has got maximum emails.
For us and Assam, we are getting phone calls, because our centers are located in villages and normally women do not text. We are responding to phone calls mostly, and it's not just that we are responding only to the recent cases, but we are calling up as much as possible to all the cases in the last 6 months.
From Breakthrough, from Breakthrough, the list we are putting up, we actually made it like numbers where they can call, text, and WhatsApp, because a lot of people reached out to us on Facebook where they were looking for numbers, and they mentioned that it's at times gets difficult to call. So we put like the option for mentioned it very well that you can text to this number or WhatsApp this number or call. So I think it'll be like a very mixed kind of an experience, whoever is working, like where people can call, they're calling, where can't call, they're texting. I mean,
yes, I believe someone else has actually asked a similar question where they've asked if anybody is receiving reports via SMS and how to respond to reports via SMS, because many women are unable to call.
Amrita,
do you want to add to that?
Sending SMSs, there is no other option, because maybe she is staying with the perpetrator. So we have to give the answer by SMS only. What we are telling them over the phone, in that way only we are texting her that you can do this or you can do that. Other than that, there is no other provision. So far we are doing, because one case is coming during this lockdown. She is only contacting us via email, because as her husband is 24/7 staying with her, so there is no other option. She can call us. So via mail only we are giving her reply.
If I have missed any questions, please share on the chat. There is one question which I will ask now, because I'm not entirely sure if it applies, but I'll still ask it. This is from Harshita. She says, I am from Bihar. I had a question to ask. You may be aware that a migrant worker from Bihar who returned from Punjab was put in an isolation ward. She was abused and she passed away due to excessive bleeding. Is there any NGO working in Bihar that is taking up this case? And what can the Bihar State Commission for Women take up in regards to this particular case? I'm not sure if this applies entirely here, but I've still asked it.
I think we can inform Rekha ji that there was this query, and what, as chairperson NCW, whether she can talk to Bihar State Women's Commission. Because right now we do not have anyone from Bihar. Any women's group here. So we will try to get in touch with them, and we can simultaneously ask Rekha ji to intervene.
And I think that is all the questions.
Oh, yes. Shashwati, this is Shohini. There are 2 or 3 other questions. Can I put them through the forum? Yes. Yeah. So one of the questions was, we use social media and all of that, but what about women who do not have phones, women who are illiterate? How do we actually reach messages right, down to that, those kind of communities? And the second was on, what are we, is there any data to show that even online violence against women and other kinds of things have increased? Is there any data to show there is an increase in online violence against women? So those are the 2 points that I saw in the chat box and wanted to bring to your attention.
Yeah, about the first part, that those who do not have access to mobiles or any phone line, how will they reach out to us if they are facing violence? And that's why I think Amrita had elaborated on how government should focus on public messaging against violence against women. And that is very important. And we need to really harp on that issue with government, that just the way they are publicizing wash your hands 10 times and don't touch your face and hand and wear mask, in a similar vein, they should be publicizing that messages, and especially messages aimed at men, that they are not supposed to raise hand either on a woman or a child or anyone who's more, who has less power than that man. So, and that will not be tolerated. And state-wise, they can put different helplines and different numbers. Firstly, for that, they have to think whether they want to run those helplines in a very efficient way. And that's why there is this, they need to have that policy in place, but we need to put that ball in government's court, because I think Doordarshan still has, and All India Radio still has the widest reach among population, and they need to use those public media to educate people on this issue also.
Can I add to the point, please? I think it's easier for us where we have a local community. So, for example, number of organizations here have communities they're working in. And I think we've seen, because of word of mouth in communities, the word spreads that the SWAYAM office is closed. You can contact on this number. So hence, in our urban community office, we saw a 33% increase in cases, new cases, which is very high. So I think somewhere when relief work is going on, whether we can club it with relief work, a lot of organizations and individuals are doing relief work, whether through them we can get the numbers across. One is at a national level, some kind of a messaging. If that doesn't work immediately, whether we can link up with organizations which are doing relief work and get those lists that we are putting together out to them. So that can be one of the other options and ways we can get some numbers out. The other thing I'm thinking, schools, for example, schools are all going online or sending some level of communication with parents. Whether schools can send something out, I don't know if it's possible, because it's mass messaging. So whether schools can be roped into sending some kind of a domestic violence awareness message with a list of helplines or numbers available, whether that can be a possibility to reach out to masses and large numbers of people. So that's another kind of option I thought about. And Shohini's other point about in terms of increase in other forms of violence, like today, I think I was checking with my urban community, there was an incident, there was a case where they got about cybercrime. So I think that might be on, I mean, I don't have enough data to comment on it, but I think if people are stuck in the house, generally India does have a high use of pornography online. So
Yeah.
whether if that increases with frustration being stuck in the house, what is the other impact that might happen? And we've seen incidences of child abuse going up. So I think if we put those two together, I think that's something we need to look out and be aware of.
On the online violence bit, I wanted to add, if we can just be little vigilant about the platform-specific mechanisms, where if you have received any kind of abuse, you can immediately report to the platform-specific platform, if it's on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. Because it's the IT, being the nature of the IT Act is again like very diluting. It's actually better to get back to the specific platform and talk about it, raise this concern, and most of the cases this platform takes care of it. But if you can't do it, you can reach out to Breakthrough. We can help you out in taking up with the platform or provide further support on this online abuse bit.
Can I just add one more point? I think somewhere if you go back to basics, this whole lockdown has kind of disbalanced the status quo in the household, even in a violent household. So she would go out to work or he would go out to work and suddenly they're stuck under the same roof.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of relooking at gender roles and who's doing what in the household. And suddenly the privilege of the man going out to work no longer exists. And suddenly he's being roped into household chores and looking after the children. So the whole kind of questioning of what gender roles were in we were kind of making do with certain gender roles, and suddenly all of those have been thrown up in the air. So I think we also need to do some kind of a discussion campaign on, masculinity and gender equality as well, because somewhere that needs to be addressed along with reduction in violence, because that somewhere is still the core.
Thank you so much. We have exactly 4 minutes left. So
there are just a few more questions that have come up, Barsha, so I'll just share those.
Okay, so we can take like another 2 minutes to take questions and then wrap it up.
Okay, so I'll just share these few questions. Is there any data regarding violence against women with disabilities during the lockdown?
I just want to say one thing. We don't have any data. What I feel that in a situation like this lockdown, because of the anxiety, frustration, and all uncertainty kind of things, all the existing biases and all the existing inequalities that are there are getting more prominent and profound. So it is very, it is very logical. It will be very logical if we infer that all those vulnerable like disabled, very old people, sex workers, trans people, they will face more violence.
Yeah.
I have a feeling, so that we may not have the data. Organizations working on disability rights may be collecting, and I don't know in what way they will be able to collect at this juncture. But if there is, that will, I think, probably support what we tend to feel.
Thank you. I'll just share the last question. As shared earlier, we are facing difficulty in getting medico-legal reports in cases of severe abuse, because of which the lodging of FIRs is getting delayed. How can this be addressed?
I must thank Breakthrough for initiating this important initiative. Very good. We need to have these discussions and dialogues more.
Thank you to everybody and Breakthrough.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you.
Before we close, just 1 second. This is Shohini from Breakthrough. There was couple of very good points raised, which I want to kind of say is that messaging to men to share housework, messaging to men to stop domestic violence, messaging to men to keep their temper on. And if we can use other men's groups, this came from Sunita Dhar, other men's groups to pass this message on to other men. So something we should be considering that as well. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I think it's also very important in this discussion what it came up that just not the lockdown. Maybe we are going to face some more challenges when the lockdown is over and when we basically get to see the impact of this whole pandemic and the impact of lockdown and how it affect our economics and how women will be suffering, and then how vis-a-vis the violence, how it's going to, what will be the situation of violence and how we are going to deal with it. So it is indeed a lot of task in front of us, and we will put in all this. So we have recorded this entire webinar, and we are going to upload it on YouTube and share the links with all of you so that we can largely circulate this. And also we have been documenting all the recommendations, and definitely we'll come up with some plan, like a nationwide, some campaign, some plan where we can bring in again everybody. And today almost 317 people joined in the call. So yes, we could reach a lot of people. A lot of people actually are concerned about this situation. And we will definitely get back to you with some more concrete plan to, reach to the authority, how we can make this more severe issue also for the government, just not making a task force, but also make some very concrete actions to address this issue. Thank you very much. Thank you all of you for this very engaging and active conversation. Thank you.